Welcome back to Philosophy of the Barber. Hello, Cassy.
Hello.
Nice to see you again. We missed you last week.
Oh, I missed me last week.
So, we're back having conversations. This week, I figure we should probably talk about customer relationships.
Ooh.
And the many interesting aspects of that concept. Because recently I had some interactions on the interwebs with some people who had differing opinions on the subject and the level of importance that there is applied to customer relationships. Some people have the opinion that barbers ultimately, like all customers care about, is the haircut they're getting, versus others that are more understanding of the long-term ramifications of cultivating actual connections and relationships with human beings, and that can cause them to come back even if the haircut itself is not the best thing they've ever had. So we'll just start on that one and we'll push off from there, but where do you land on that?
Oh, I'm definitely more looking for the long-term investment with connections to my clients, for sure. I want to know about your kids. I want to know about the sports that they're doing. I want to know. My goal in this is to be a multi-generational barber. Like, however many years from now, want to be cutting grandpa and grandson's dad and everybody in between. Like, I would like to be the family barber. Like, that's more my goal. Like, this isn't just like turning numbers and doing haircuts to me. Like, each conversation that I have with each client is personal and different and custom to what kind of experience we have together. Cause it's just as much an experience for me sometimes as it is an experience for them.
Well, I feel like that's one of the things that makes it not be a grind of a profession. Like, don't get me wrong. There's tons of people who are in this profession that are like grind it out, like crank out those haircuts, bing, bang, boom, like making the money. But I don't consider that to be sustainable. Now, that is, unless you have like boxes being checked in other aspects of your life where like that's financing your other pursuits.
Yes.
Then it's like, okay, I can totally understand how ultimately that is just a way for you to get your different goals that are outside of this profession. But like, as somebody who is passionate about the profession, and like my pursuits are not really outside of it, I find my boxes being checked within it.
Yeah.
Like, that's where my fulfillment is coming from, is people in my chair. So yeah, I care about those people. And as somebody who has been getting haircuts twice as long as I've been giving them, you know, I would certainly, as I've posted on some people's stuff lately, I will sit in somebody's chair that I connect with if they give me even an okay haircut, rather than somebody who can give me the sickest fade that I've ever seen and they have a crap attitude. Like, I'm not gonna, like, because there's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah.
I have no influence on them changing their attitude. If anything, I'll just be able to piss them off and poke the bear. I mean, that's fun depending on the day, but not really a sustainable situation.
No, I very much enjoy the taking my time with each person kind of atmosphere. I don't think I would mesh well in a more chop shop style environment where you're
cranking them out
and stuff. Like, I can't even, because I am still so new into this industry, I came in middle pre-COVID, so I was past the walk-in stage.
Right.
So
You've
like,
never experienced that.
So I can't even fathom the crank out of being a strictly walk-in shop. Like, I can't, that just does not compute for me. My entire service industry experience has been having ample time with each person to build that rapport and have that time to actually fully engage and not just cut hair.
Well, and I've operated for several years on either side of that dividing line. And I mean, as much as it was a valuable learning experience to go through the walk-ins, the having a multi-hour wait in a shop, like knowing what that feels like, the reason why it's good for me is that I know what that feels like to know what I don't want. Because that, for me, as someone who is prone to anxiety, as an introvert, I felt so much anxiety, and from anything like going to the restroom to actually taking a lunch break when there's a line of people sitting there staring at you, just waiting for you to get done with whoever's in your chair. Because, like, with that atmosphere, it's very difficult for people to actually remember the mentality that this barber is a human being that needs things. They need to eliminate some waste. They need to drink some water. They need to eat some food. They need to step away from their work and, like, be out of that environment for, a half an hour or so, because that's healthy. That's how people don't have heart attacks in the barbershop. That's how people don't have strokes in the barbershop. As somebody who's had friends who have had both in the barbershop.
What?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Because that is not healthy.
Excuse me.
So, but, like, our health is our responsibility. It's nobody else's responsibility. Like, it's our job as the individual to create those boundaries and defend those boundaries. You go, no, yeah, I'm self-employed. Yeah, I'm not subject to, like, labor laws.
Yeah.
Technically, because nobody's employing me.
Yeah.
I can do what I want, but that means that I have that responsibility alone to make sure that I take breaks, that I'm doing what's healthy for me. And that leads us into the next aspect of it, which is, like, setting proper boundaries with your customers while maintaining those relationships.
Especially once you do get to that point, I feel like there becomes a certain point, at least for me, where we hit a certain level of comfortability with one another that we almost do become friends and create a friendship with some of my clients, to a point where their appointment booking is more personal. They're not necessarily going on the website. And so I feel like then is where it can get kind of sticky as far as, like, doing favors or any kind of that thing. Like, there's no, like, having someone ask about, like, your hours. Like, I so often get messaged on Sundays asking if I have availability Monday for a haircut. And it would be very easy for me to, on occasion, if I don't have plans, just come into the shop and cut someone's hair on a Monday. But the reality is I'm not open on Mondays. I work Tuesday through Saturday, and I don't need to break that boundary, because then I will consistently break that boundary over and
it'll become an expectation of you to do that.
Or that boundary will get consistently pushed.
Yes.
If I do give slack on it. Even staying too late or coming in too early. Like you said, we don't necessarily have to abide to any labor laws, and it is what we're willing to do. But we still have to remember what we're going to be able to provide consistently enough on a regular basis. Because if we're not going to want to if we're not going to always want to stay late every Wednesday, then, like, maybe don't do that for them.
Yep.
Because in the long run, you're going to be the one that's possibly holding resentments, and now you're putting, like, icky waters in your relationship with your semi-personal, mostly professional client.
Yep. And it's certainly definitely one of those, like, you got to keep the big picture in mind when you make those decisions on operating hours and days. This is not about what you can do right now. This is about what is going to be a fair expectation for you to meet down the road a year or two from now. Because that person is going to remember that unless you have had very clear communication going, hey, I'm doing you a favor right now.
Yeah.
Don't expect this in the future. And they understand that. Or, like, in the case of great quality clients that are friends, that are more, and I mean, I love the ones that do this. They're like, I'll offer something that's outside of my normal range because I know their life, because I've been cutting their hair for years. And I go, hey, I get your life is hectic right now. If you want to come in after my normal hours, like, I'm totally willing to hook you up with that. Yeah. Because I know what's going on. And they're like, no, I don't want you to do that. Like, that's, you have a life too.
Yes.
I go, I love you for that, but I would not be offering this if I wasn't willing and able. And so that's nice to have that consideration going both ways.
And also, like, when you are considering, like, what hours to work, I remember when I first was, like, in school and working, I filled up every minute of every hour of every day with something. Mostly work and school, but I still then continued to fill my little after hours because I was working and going to school 7 days a week. I had no other time besides the 30 minutes here and there. And then as I continued through school, I didn't allow that to get any easier. I added a second job to the mix while still going to school. And I lived in such a state of constantly being and doing something that when I finally was able to taper out of that last year, I realized that I don't need to fill every hour of every day. Just because I'm available doesn't mean I need to be consistently overworking myself because of the longevity of things, because like that could only last so long before a burnout.
Oh yeah. And as somebody who's experienced several burnouts in this profession and in life, that's definitely a thing. As a business owner, I've definitely overextended myself several times, whether it's emotionally or physically, time, money, whatever. Like, I've made all the mistakes because I didn't really, I was doing it all for the first time. And I didn't have, we'll say, a mentor at the ready.
Yeah.
Like, my mentors were busy doing a lot of other things, and those aren't things that I would normally, like, pick their brain about.
Yeah.
It's just like, I can figure it out. So it's definitely like, yeah, having that big perspective of being like, all right, can I still meet this commitment on my worst day?
Yeah.
Like, barring a crisis that, like, emergency life happens. Like, on my worst day, can I still wake up at this time and show up on time? And so, like, work around the possibility of you on your worst day, and as long as you can still meet that obligation, great. That's what you can do. That's what you need to do. Now, we can segue, still on the subject of boundaries with customers. Let's talk a little bit, like, away from the shop hours and pricing and stuff, and go more towards the emotional boundaries, the relationship boundaries. Because, I mean, we get to know people pretty intimately, especially in our situation where it's not a big boisterous shop where people are more talking shop and like being more community and loud. Like, we get one-on-one, like, therapy sessions.
Oh, my relationships with my clients have full on just like submerged in the depths of their lives since being in such an intimate one-on-one setting. The things that they share and are just, well, and also vice versa, the things we connect with each other.
Oh yeah.
There's just no, it's almost a lot more limitless now. It's kind of cool.
Well, and it definitely offers a more genuine opportunity for reciprocity of experiences between barber and client. We talk about, like, any experience or hypotheticals that you've already conjured in your mind about, like, all right, if this situation arises, I know how to deal with it. Like, inappropriate messages from people, like, who at first are trying to go, get a haircut and then are trying to, like, hit on you.
Oh, it's hard to find a method that works. I try to keep it as professional as possible and just keep it as nice as possible, because it's flattering, right? Like, and a lot of the times, I've been lucky enough that I've never been in a situation where I've been too overly uncomfortable with any of the clients that I've ever encountered. But there are scenarios that play out in my head of the what ifs, and I have to try to remember that I have to try to be respectful, but I have to be also very direct, and I can't allow there to be any gray areas in my responses or how I get back to them about things, especially if in person, if I'm getting flustered or like I'm in a state of I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, because that can be an old like mindset of mine.
Well, that's a common mindset of females in general.
Yes.
Dealing with men. It's that we don't want to make you upset. Not in our presence.
Nope. But I have to remember to be very direct, because if I'm not, especially when it comes to romantic feelings or whatever the case may be, I don't need there to be any misconstrued lines that this is a business relationship. Have you had to set any firm boundaries like that with any of your clients over the years?
For the most part, when I was in my dating life, because I've been married almost 5 years now, and then was married the first year I owned a shop, so I had a chunk of time in between where I was in between husbands. But for the most part, I tend to have kept very mature perspectives on things. Like anybody I've had previous relationship or interactions of that nature with, I've been able to keep a compartmentalized situation. Like, hey, I'm not the one who's going to bring awkwardness. I hate awkwardness.
Yeah.
I hate cringe. I would rather be blunt and have it on the table and have a conversation than have the awkwardness of like, oh, I guess he's still cool sitting in my chair and we're just gonna leave these things unsaid. Sorry about that little bit. You might have heard there was a crash in the background.
Some commotion.
We had to go check on our business neighbor.
Oh, gosh.
Thankfully, nobody is there.
Or injured.
So, back to what we were talking about. So my experience with people in personal relationships has always been pretty mature, and anybody who's moving on and we no longer need each other in our lives in any capacity, whether it's barber or otherwise, just kind of fades away like anybody else. Like I cannot think of more than, I've only had one instance that is memorable of like a big like blow up sort of breakup of a barber and a client.
Oh, really?
But that was the text message person. Do we want to talk about that?
It's up to you.
Suffice it to say, for context, I received a text message back in like, I don't know, 2015 or something, from a client who was very upset. This is during the walk-in period where people wait an hour or two for a spot in somebody's chair. And this person waited for me for an hour. This was a busy, cranking Friday. I hadn't peed, let alone eaten anything. I had had no break cranking, and this was like 2 o'clock. And I'm like, I will pass out if I don't eat something. So I was like, hey, I need to run over to the burrito place. I'll be like 15 minutes. I'm going to shove a burrito down my throat, and then I'll be back to cut your hair. And he was livid. He's like, you better cut my hair right now or I'm leaving. So I went, bye. And so he was pissed, went out. As I was getting my burrito, I received a text message from him that was probably the worst thing anybody's ever sent me to this day. Calling me lots of expletives that were targeted as a female, as like, body shaming, as like stuff about me being in rehab, and that he hopes that I go back, and that like all these terrible things.
Just terrible things.
Yeah, terrible things. And that's when I learned the lesson that I don't want to be everybody's barber. Some people can F off.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need you. And, for further context, today, that man is in prison for felonious essay of minors.
Oh, shenanigans.
And so is his husband.
Double shenanigans. When things just fall into place.
Yeah, sometimes you don't need to be the consequence for people. Sometimes you can just let the universe
do
apply
its thing.
karma as it suits.
It'll get there.
Yep.
It'll get there.
So yeah, that was my worst firing a client situation. But boundaries.
Yeah. I've I've yet to be in a situation where I've had to break anything off with the client. I've been lucky enough that I think it's just the stance I give when speaking to my clients. I just don't feel like I give off that energy to hit on me. Like, to just, the rarity that it does happen, I'm almost kind of shocked. But I just don't, I think a lot of my clients respect what is going on, that I am a business professional, that this is a business professional setting, and that we're not as much fun as we have when we're engaging back and forth with one another, that, like, this is still what that is. It's still a platonic relationship.
Well, I think, most especially in your experience, at least in what I have witnessed, when someone is hitting on you, it is, or asking you out or whatever, it is far more a matter of who they are and where they are in their mind and in their life. Like, it speaks much more of them than it does you doing anything to initiate that. It's certainly not a case of, oh, she shouldn't have been dressing that way.
Yeah.
Or a, gee, you're awfully complimentary. Like, it's none of that. Like, you don't give any of that off. You're simply being the comfortable you and being genuine. But I think the people that have initiated those types of, I don't know, what do you call them? Come-ons?
Yeah. Propositions?
Yeah. It certainly speaks more to where they are in their life or the type of interactions that they have with people, that perhaps just by being your genuine, professional but friendly self, they mistake for interest, maybe because they have a lot of disinterest or indifferentness in their life. That, like, even that speck of kindness is something that they want to latch onto. You know, very much like someone in survival mode.
Agreed.
So, and I think we have the luxury of getting to know people well enough to be able to kind of spot that and be like, okay, I'm not going to take this personally. Like, I'm not going to hold this against you. But understand that, like, I appreciate the intent, the sentiment behind it, but like, I am your barber. And in order for you to keep this professional relationship going, we cannot do anything on the side. Because, I mean, especially being a female barber, that's the thing that, like, guy barbers don't have to worry about.
No.
Aside from the rare occasion that you might get somebody coming in that has long hair and is getting, like, an undercut, or one of us, like, you know, women with short hair. But the ratio of that is drastically lower, because most women are not going to hit on a guy. No. Because I think it's more apparent to us, understanding the value of this person that you're trusting with your hair.
Yeah. That
you don't want to jeopardize that. Because, I mean, the likelihood of both of you being mature enough to be able to move past something, if it doesn't work out,
slim.
Yeah.
Slim.
But yeah, I mean, just by virtue of being a female in this profession, the likelihood of getting hit on is so much higher.
And I only say I'm lucky just because I have heard stories of other women in this profession that it is almost annoying, some of the things that I hear, that some of their clients are so insistent. And mind you, some of the experiences I'm hearing are from girls that I also went to barber school with, so younger. I was one of the oldest ones in my class, so these are not only fresh in the industry, but fresh into, like, life.
Adulthood.
Yeah, they're 20, 21 years old. They're still finding their bearings and their voice a lot of the time.
They don't know their boundaries, let alone being able to defend them.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of it, from what I hear, a lot of it is because there are not boundaries put in place.
Right.
Like, this is continued behavior from this one person because you didn't set a clear enough boundary the first time. So now he can come at you like this every time he gets a haircut.
I have seen that.
And he's going to continue with this behavior until you do.
Yes.
Whatever. It's like the saying that they say for kids, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile.
Oh, yeah.
That goes with anybody. People like to see what kind of room they have to do something.
Oh, yeah. Push boundaries.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen that not just with female barbers, but I've seen that with, male barbers that have worked for me before, of some clients who I would categorize are bullying. Like, oh, you're gonna like poke fun and give grief, and it's like, to a point, if that's like the type of relationship,
if you're like chopping it
the
up.
banter, if it's going both ways, all right, that's fine. But if you're constantly doing that to your barber and that barber's not standing up for themselves, then at least in my capacity at the time, my position as owner, we've gone over it. I'm a very defensive person. I will not like unnecessarily start a conflict, but if I see one a brewing, I'm going to defend anybody that I am in charge of. Like, if you are my charge, or if it's me or my family, like, I'm going to defend you. So if somebody is talking down to you or like being mean, I'm going to have words with them. And I'm going to have words with you, because the words I'm going to have with you are, you need to defend yourself. You're in control of your chair, your station. You have every right to decide who is in that chair.
Yep.
And if they're making you uncomfortable, they shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Or you need to tell them that there is a boundary. You cross it again, you're not going to be here. You can go find another chair. Because we don't want everybody in our chair, right?
Yeah.
We want the people that we look forward to seeing, that we enjoy having in our chair. Now, don't get me wrong. Starting off in the industry, you want to gather as many people as you can.
Yeah.
Like, you're just wide net. Bring them all in.
You're just happy to have them.
You're making clay. Once you have a big enough lump of clay, then you can start molding and carving to tailor your clientele to be exactly what you want to do all day long. Excuse me.
I feel like some people don't either realize that that's a thing, or like don't care to. But like, I never considered like being at this, like looking in your shoes at the stage you're at, like that being a potential step in your career, like grooming your clientele down to not necessarily a select few, but ones that are all there kind of for the same expectation and hope from the experience. And I didn't consider that. In my mind, it was just always cutting the whole family. I'm worried over here about my generational haircutting abilities and making sure I cut grandpa, dad, and all the in-betweens. And I didn't even think about how you can do that. And like, that's an option for you as you get further down in your career.
Well, and it's so much a priority. Like, excuse me. Everybody does. Like, you have to decide what your priorities are. Everybody has to have a top priority. In my case, my top priority is making sure that I get to enjoy every day. That I look forward. Like, this ain't work for me.
Yeah.
This is like, I'm excited that I get to see these people.
Yeah.
And so, like, I care about the value of my day, being in the moment, being here. But I can understand how there are other people who have different priorities. Like, if your priority is making a certain amount of money, I get it. Power to you, because you have goals that are outside these walls.
Yeah.
Then those are the goals that you're aiming at. I totally understand that your top priority is making an amount of money, especially when you are responsible for a family. Especially when you're a man responsible for a family.
Yeah.
Like, I get the way the brain is wired.
Strictly financial.
That is where you are, providing for your family. Solid. I get it. That's a priority. But then there are other people who have different priorities.
Yeah.
And none of them are wrong. It's just what's yours.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not going to sit here and poop on other people's priorities. I have mine. And that's why my philosophy of things is, all right, you gather the clay, you mold the clay, you carve the clay. And that's what I care most about. Like, money comes for me. Like, that's it. Like, if I'm focused on offering a quality experience and like for everybody involved, the money comes. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to focus on that. Because I will go crazy because of my own upbringing background of financial insecurity. If I hyper focus on finances, I cause myself nothing but stress. But as we've spoken about before, my main priority is lessening my stress. If I can have little to no stress, I'm happy. Wins all around. Because if I'm not stressed, I won't make you stressed.
Yeah.
Because that is contagious.
It really is. It really, really is.
That whole, like, happy wife, happy life thing? It's true. Just like a guy being upset in a female's presence catches, and we're tense because of that.
Oh, God.
Same thing, if a female is upset, no man in the room is comfortable. Now, I mean, females, we can't be comfortable when another female is upset around us, but we can not be tense.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, well, we know what's going on.
We can at least simmer.
Yeah. We're like, we've already identified the situation. There's nothing we can do about it right now. She just got to cry it out.
Yep. She just needs to be.
So how about we talk about what happens when we do actually spark friendships with customers and, end up dealing with them outside of work. I mean, I will say that the vast majority of my clients are clients, they're customers. And then I adopt the label of frustomer for people who are both friend and customer.
Yes.
And it's not a long list, but like there are a few. They're bound to be statistically over 12 years or so. But I mean that's a good thing in my eyes. Like, number one, yeah, I will go above and beyond for them. Like, in any capacity that I can, whether it's like showing up for a haircut outside of hours because they got to go to a last minute funeral or, stuff like that. That, I mean, I would do for a customer if they asked, but because both people have to invest in a friendship to keep it going.
Yeah.
I am very limited on my abilities as a friend. So if I can use my skills as a barber to further that friendship and further invest in it, then that's what I'm willing to do. Because I may not necessarily be able to show up for things outside all the time.
Yeah.
But like, and also people who are over the age of 30, if they got families, they don't have a lot of free time. You don't get a lot of hang out with friend opportunities.
No.
So being able to have that half hour, 45-minute, hour appointment, once every 3-4 weeks to just like check in and, dump on what's been going on.
Well, and I feel like I would like to hang out more with some of my clients outside just because I want to help also get myself out there with the people that I'm, like the clients that I have become friendly with are like my kind of people. So like, I feel like I would vibe with their friends and all those things also. But like you said, as adults, it's a little bit different. You're not just going to hang out with friends all the time and make all these different plans. Well, I am sometimes.
Well, we've also seen, like, being friends with people doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to stay your customer.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, I think that really tests whether or not you're really friends. Or if you're just convenient. Like, having roommates that, you've been cutting their hair for years, maybe you went to school with them. And then, like, eventually life gets in the way and, you become a lot harder to get in with. And, like, they still got to get their hair cut.
Yeah.
And so making sure that you don't take that personally.
Oh, yeah, fair.
It's like, hey, dude, I've only got so many hours in the day. You've only got so many hours in the day. They don't always jive. Like, that should never be a slight against the person. It's like, this isn't about you. This is about my ability to get a haircut.
Yeah. I'm sure time will tell how those if those situations arise and how those things plan out with me. I feel like with some of this, I'm still so, my firm clientele that I have now is still fresh, kind of.
Yeah.
Like I've only been in the Laconia area cutting hair for like a year and a half now. So there's still relationships cultivating.
Sure. Well, I'd say being more of a homebody or spending the majority of your off time outside of this area also kind of limits your exposure to locals. So there's less likelihood of you running into clients outside of, you know, a trip to the local Walmart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, you know, the occasional restaurant go where we run into people who's like, oh, we'll leave the restaurant with at least 3 appointments.
Yes. These are my favorite kind of dinner dates.
But it's, you know, that happens if the time is dedicated to that area.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as I've mentioned previously, on occasion you are friends with people and just par for the course of being a barber, especially for a while, is you got clients of all ages, all backgrounds. And sometimes you gotta be the one to find out that they're dead.
Oh my god, I know.
So,
Wild.
that's a thing too. And hey, honestly, I hope that, like, some of my closer clientele, I hope that, number one, I mean, outliving people is not ever a goal, but if that were to be the case, if you put it in your will that you would like me to give you your body's last haircut, I would be honored to do that.
Yeah.
But that would also be the only way the majority of my clientele will have me at their funeral. Because the majority of my clientele, I only know them as them.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard stories. I hear their side of everything in their life. But very rarely do I ever get to meet a significant other. You know, if they come in with kids and everything, like, that's great. Whether or not I end up cutting those kids' hair, I mean, that's on me and on them.
Yeah.
But I may not have the comfort level as an introvert who, yeah, deals with one person at a time. To, like, I had a personal relationship with that person. That person being gone means that that relationship no longer exists. I didn't have that with their family. I didn't have that with their significant other. I had that with them. So barbers are sometimes left to mourn the loss of their friends and customers by themselves a lot.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because really nobody else was part of that.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a group situation.
You weren't co-connected through different things. It was just...
And especially with my recent loss of... There's, like, super few people that were friends with him. Period.
Yeah.
So it really is a solitary mourning process of, like, cool, well, I'm kind of the only one who knows what it feels like for them to no longer be in your life, because I'm one of the few who knew what it was like to have them in my life.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's one of the, you know, more of a Debbie Downer end of things, but it's something that should be talked about anyway.
I was going to say, it's a
prepare yourself.
Yeah, it's a definitely real thing for clients not lasting forever.
Yeah, I make sure to check the obituaries on a regular basis. Because, I mean, I don't want to just wonder where they went and assume it was me. How self-centered of me to be like, are they mad at me?
Or are they dead?
Let's not have those be the only two options. But yeah, like, I mean, we live in a state that's the second oldest state in the Union. Like, we have an aging population here. These things need to be taken into account. So yeah, I regularly check the obituaries. I gotta make sure. And it's also, for possibility, having to squeeze somebody in because one of their family members,
yeah.
They suddenly have to go to a funeral in a week. So I want to make sure that because of those extenuating circumstances, I can fit them in.
Yeah.
Or at least have the heads up that they might reach out. So I think that's an added bonus if you can dedicate some anticipation. Be like, hey, just in case, like, emergency haircut slots.
Mm-hmm.
Because one never knows. Well, on that note, Cassie seems to be extremely tired because it is late.
It is late.
And we had to wait way too long for a pizza.
Stupid pizza.
So, we will see you guys next week.
Yes.
Have a wonderful night.
Good night.